Hello, and welcome to Making Creativity Pay, the podcast where we talk to people in creative industries about how they promote and market their work. I'm Dan Barnett. On this episode I spoke with Amy Mansfield.
Kia ora everybody, my name's Amy Mansfield. I'm a writer, producer, and currently also a performer from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I'm bringing my show HR the Musical to Gilded Balloon's Patter House from the 5th to the 31st of August. So we're really excited. It's a sketch comedy set in the workplace, and it's drawn from a whole lot of people's real stories. So I crowdsourced a whole lot of the stories and interviewed a whole lot of people, and also drawing on my own experience working in the public sector and the private sector over many, many years.
You seem to have got that down quite nicely. You know, when I speak to a lot of people, they're a bit kind of not quite with it, but you've got it nailed already.
Well, I've done a few interviews recently. I mean, I suppose it's always that thing with comedy where, you know, you think, oh God, I need to be funny. And I'm not always, because this is quite a serious topic, and you know, in a lot of our minds, it's the future of work. It's the pain and the frustration of everyday work. But of course, the minute you talk about HR and HR in musical form, everyone starts to kind of go, hold on a second. That's not the kind of subject matter that would normally get a musical treatment. So I think people kind of get a hint that there's a little wink in my eye when I'm talking about it just from the outset.
I know you've had the show in production for a couple of years now. I don't know if you wanted to kind of say about, you know, how it came about and kind of how it's developed over time.
Yeah. So I had been, I guess, collecting for many years funny stories from the workplace. Many years ago, I worked in a legal publishing company that was a global one, and one day the HR person came and handed out a bunch of these very thick kind of Bibles almost that said the HR policies and procedures manual, and it was open plan, and a whole lot of, you know, really kind of geeky legal editors and things standing up and just reading random pages from the manual, like a poetry reading, sort of impromptu in the open plan office. And I just thought, oh, that's really funny. And I held on to that manual for a long time. And then during COVID, you know, obviously everything was upside down, or in some ways the right way up. But in people's kind of employment situations, you know, most people were kind of pulling their hair out for one reason or another. And one of the places I was working during that time, which was a performing arts facility, everybody got redeployed to the zoo or the Maritime Museum because it was, you know, sitting under council. So they owned a number of different types of buildings, and the absurdity of that just really struck me. And I started reading a lot and researching a lot about work, what it is to us, how the modern office has come about, all of the kind of management stuff that, you know, people treat as though it's some kind of gospel, but actually it's sort of only been dreamed up in the last 100 or so years. And yeah, I just got super interested in the topic, and then I started riffing on it with just talking to friends and saying, hey, I've got this idea. And from, like I said, from the outset, people, even just saying the title, people were like, oh, that's funny. So yeah, I started playing around with it, and then I, like a lot of people, I can't really get a lot done until I have a deadline, so I have to impose these deadlines upon myself. So I booked a theatre for like a development showing, invited 60 people, and then went away for a couple of days and in two separate lots to just play around with the ideas that I had. They pretty much all began with the songs. So it sort of, that's, I think, how it's ended up being sketch comedy. I thought about putting it into a kind of, you know, epic narrative form, but really it lends itself well to sketch because it's a bunch of very absurd moments that many of us will have encountered in the workplace. and musically, each song has a quite distinct genre. So, for example, we've got a spoken word number that's a bit kind of craft worky over a beat, that's using lyrics that I've sourced verbatim from LinkedIn, the sort of stuff that people say on LinkedIn that, makes you want to cringe. So that's one. Then there's a Latin plain chant that's all about passive aggressive emails. And I kind of, I've enjoyed juxtaposing the genre with the subject matter, because, of course, back in the day when people were chanting in Latin, they didn't really have emails. And yeah, then we've got like a Disney kind of aria, which is all about dealing with difficult people. We've got a rap battle that's a face-off between a human and an AI, which of course is on everyone's brain at the moment. Hopefully there'll be a time where it isn't. But yeah. And sorry, so this is a long answer, but we've done a number of iterations. So there's now 26 songs in the repertoire, and it could be a 2.5-hour show if we were going to do them all at once, because we've actually done HR the Musical in 2024 in New Zealand, and then in 2025 we did HR the Musical #2, which was a completely new show. And then we've just toured, and what we're touring to Edinburgh is a combination of the two, sort of the best of. So it's a bit like a gig in that sense. It's sort of, we've chosen a set list of our favourites that we think are going to go down well with the audience in Edinburgh, and we've tested it on the Australians, so people are lucky.
Yeah, I saw on your website it says something like 10,000 people have seen it already. So obviously it's something that's been developed, whereas a lot of people at the Fringe, that it's still a work in progress, or it's still developing, but you've got something quite developed. So what was the kind of reasoning for 2026, let's go to the Fringe?
Well, actually I wasn't intending, coming from New Zealand, it's just a vast expense, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring over something that's ready, though I would love to spend more time experimenting. And in fact, I think the fact is you're always doing that in a way, like we are changing it all the time, but in minor rather than major ways. But yeah, what happened is I wanted to take the show to Australia as the kind of first step on the international journey, and we went to Adelaide Fringe, and we got great traction there within just a few days, and that's when it was suggested that I contact Gilded Balloon, and as being a good fit for our show, because they've hosted so many great musical comedy acts, including Flight of the Conchords, who are Kiwis, and Tim Minchin, who I'm a big fan of. So I just sort of started thinking about it more seriously at that point, and then one of their people a couple of them came to see the show, one in Adelaide and then another when we were in the Melbourne Comedy Festival. And it just sort of seemed like the stars were aligning. I spoke to the venue. It seemed like a really good fit for us. We got a great room, a great time, which is really important for this show, because, we love people to come in their post-work office outings and things. So we're playing at 6:30 p.m, which is perfect for that. So then I really basically did a budget, and I was like, okay, this is going to involve a lot of fundraising, but also, I think we can do it. The time is right. The momentum's there. It's hard to get all these things in place at once as a producer, and they currently are, one can always think, it would be better if we had X or we did Y or whatever. But I think, largely we've got what we need to bring it, and so we're bringing it.
Because yes, there's 3 of you in the show, so obviously that adds another element expense. But I saw on your crowdfunder you hit the target, I think, yesterday. So
we did.
That must be pretty special. Was there anything in particular you thought kind of made a real difference in terms of crowdfunding?
Yes, and the platform that we use, which is run by the Arts Foundation in New Zealand, is called Boosted. They they talk about this when you're putting it together, a campaign. It's like, can you find, a few people or one person who will be a match donor to kind of get things moving early, which we were lucky enough to do. And then also some really unexpected and beautiful people came in and donated, a few significant amounts. And so the kind of, I guess, the psychology of it, I mean, in a funny way, it sort of feels a little bit like gambling, because by the time you get the momentum, people are like, oh, yeah. And then they start putting in more money, the same people. And obviously that's incredible, and it's amazing that people have anything to give at the moment, because it is hard times. It's hard times in New Zealand.
But obviously with three of you, yes, it ups the cost, but it also means then that you're not on your own. So that helps in terms of just being away and kind of doing a show repeatedly and flyering and everything else like that. I mean, do you think that will be a big help, that you're not on your own?
Yeah, I mean, the flyering is part of the job. Like, we found it really we did it for the first time in Adelaide. Like, I'd never done that in New Zealand for a show, and it worked really well. Like, we would fly our people, we'd kind of descend upon them. We've all got these yellow branded T-shirts, so we kind of, we look like a thing. And we'd see a bunch of people that we'd fly in the show, 2 hours later. So that kind of made me realise, and also just talking to so many people, that yes, it's definitely a thing in Edinburgh. We've got to be doing it. And yeah, just obviously in terms of the support for each other, kind of on stage and off stage, being a team makes a big difference. I know that, I've never done a solo show myself, but I know how hard it must be if you're just traipsing around on your own the whole time and having to deal with complete strangers and having nobody that you know.
Your company's ArtSense, that you've had for about a decade now, and done a variety of different shows and things like that. How do you think things have changed? I mean, we mentioned COVID there as well, in terms of the arts and things like that, and the level of support and the difficulty of getting stuff made. Do you think it's changed a lot in the last few years?
Yes, I mean, in New Zealand, there's never been much funding for the arts. Like, it's always, and I mean, I know that's the case around the world, but if you do have the opportunity to compare by talking with other artists or going to other countries and seeing what kind of work gets made, it's very clear we're down the rung. Just the amount of rehearsal time, the production values, the number of people involved in a show, everything's done on a complete shoestring, and it's definitely getting worse. So our arts funding organisation, like the national one, has just announced that it's sort of changing in such a way that a lot of the small amount of funding that there is will be administered at regional levels, and there's been huge cuts anyway. And there's just, we don't have states like they have in Australia, so there's only sort of a couple of levels. Like there's the sort of city level, and then there's the national level, and that's it. And there's not a lot in terms of philanthropy. It's just not in our culture. And people try and go, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great if we had more philanthropy? But I mean, that kind of thing happens over a long time. It's not an overnight thing. And in fact, part of the reason it happens, in my view, is because of a culture that is kind of focused on individualism and doesn't think that the state has any responsibility for its own kind of caring for the culture of its nation. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's great to have both, but I don't think that those things exist in a kind of philosophical void, as it were. It's like there are values behind different types of funding, and when you're in the arts, like a lot of the funding that is available to some artists, and I'm not in this category, it comes through gambling, through pokie machines. We have a lot of kind of so-called community trusts where the people are being essentially preyed upon via the gambling, and then that money gets redistributed into the community. In New Zealand, of course, it's mostly to sports, and then there's a small amount that goes to the arts. But again, that's kind of, it's problematic in many ways, and it's not talked about as often as it should be, I think.
So I know you took one of your shows around people's houses, so you would have. It's an interesting way of doing it, of kind of getting it out there. I mean, did you really enjoy that?
Oh, I love doing that, and the performer that I work with the most, Mika Austin, who's an old friend of mine, and we actually, we used to do performance poetry together, and we did plays in German when we were at university, because we both were doing German, and she loves it too. It's brilliant from a community point of view, because people invite their neighbours. They take ownership, as it were, of being the kind of venue, but only for a night. And so it's sort of exciting. It's different. This sort of thing doesn't happen much in the neighbourhood, but it also kind of allows you to be obviously quite up close and personal with the audience. So it's brilliant for anything interactive. And I think it kind of returns everyone to the fact that really, when we begin in our creative journey, we do it at home, a lot of us. I mean, I think a lot of the time when people feel permission to be creative, it's because their parents have nurtured that kind of environment where they can dance around and sing and play and be silly and all that kind of thing. So strangely, the domestic the domestic venue, as it were, the house theatre, the pop-up theatre, it seems quite basic, but there's a lot of kind of thought and value behind it. Plus, you can make more money. Like, you can actually it depends, of course, but we did 2 house fundraisers as part of our fundraising to come to Edinburgh. And one of them, we had 3, there were 3 women who were like, hey, you could use our house, you just choose which one. They're all friends and they all live within a 5-minute walk from one another. And I was like, what would be fun to do would be do a little mini Edinburgh Fringe, where we actually, move from one venue to another, and everyone brings their glass or, vessel with them. And we just do excerpts in each house rather than a full show. And that's what we did, and it was just an absolute blast. Everybody had such a laugh. And I thought, again, that's a kind of really cool thing to just happen in a random neighborhood. It's people would go to that who do not go to the theatre and probably will never go to the theatre. So
getting back to promoting the show, so kind of the main areas kind of talk about is flyering, which you kind of mentioned. I mean, on that, do you have a number in mind for kind of 20 odd days? I'm going to be flyering however many hours per day, so I need 10,000 flyers. Are you at that stage yet?
Yes, absolutely. I've been that stage for months. We've got 10,000 flyers. We've got about 6,500 tickets to sell. We've got about 10,000 flyers, and it'll mainly be the 3 of us, though I've got a couple of friends who happen to have put their hand up to help out, who are going to be over just for a few days at a time. But I'm like, we'll take anyone, and we'll give you your spiel and a t-shirt. So Yeah, I mean, I think we have to, of course, we have to be careful about our voices and everything because we don't want to be losing our voices. um, but I think we'll definitely be on the streets for a couple of hours at least a day. And we've got a few ideas in terms of kind of activations to just draw a bit of attention to us. Plus, because our show really appeals to businesses and companies and like work groups, typically would go into those businesses beforehand and just go to the reception and have a chat with them and see if we can, infiltrate like that. So it's not just on the street. Hopefully we're actually getting inside places too and having some contact with the target market.
Absolutely. And do you have like a little, I mean, I sometimes say 30 seconds, but when you're trying to give a flyer, it's probably not even that, like a 10-second elevator pitch as to kind of what the show is and why people should come.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of bowl up to people and I say, have you ever had a job or thought about getting one? And then, they're like, oh, I guess I do belong in that category, and it's such a stupid question. And then I bowl into talking about HR the musical. And often, if there's something else that can get us chatting, then I'm up for that too. It's really what we've realised from doing it a bit in Adelaide is people, some people just don't want to talk to you. That's fine.
Yeah.
Other people are up for a quick chat, and if you can do that, then that makes all the difference.
And do you have any posters planned around the city?
Yeah, we just actually, I don't know if you know, there's this process where you have to kind of go online once the release happens for the various poster outfits, and of course because I'm in New Zealand that I have to be like online at midnight just with my mouse go. I managed to get 2 spots of like significance, and actually it looks like one of my friends sent me a photo that looks like they're already up. There's a tower near a castle.
Okay.
And there's some sort of a billboard. And then we've got a number, those are bigger ones that hopefully people will not be able to not notice, if that's not too many negatives. And then we've got like A3s that are going up around the city, and we're actually going to traipse around with a few ourselves, which I wasn't originally planning to do. But again, it's like, if I can make a connection with some people and they put it up in their office or something, I think that might make a difference. But it's hard, and I've never been to Edinburgh before, so really looking at a map to try and decide, hey, this is a good place. Like that in itself was a challenge.
And so kind of with that level of decent sized venue, and you've got, like you said, a lot of tickets to sell, I mean, how important are things like reviews and the preview season to kind of try and get the word out there?
Yeah, from what I have been told by the venue and my PR person who I've engaged, who's based in Edinburgh, she's Australian, Lily Marriott, pretty important, because typically, especially for people who haven't been before, who don't have a name, like this show, this is the first time, it's not common to sell many tickets in advance. So whereas like with a season in New Zealand or even Australia, even though we're newbies there too, I would really go for the pre-sale so that we've got a lot of sales going into the season. But apparently that's not usual in Edinburgh, so we really have to get the buzz happening early, get the reviews in, get the locals in, hopefully. And I mean, the good thing is there are many opportunities that the venue offers. Gilded Balloon has things like they have postcode specials for people who actually live in Edinburgh. That's on at the moment. Actually, there's a special if people want to go to there. I think it's for the next 10 days. I'm not sure when you're planning on airing this. But anyway, we're just doing anything and everything we can. I'm taking every opportunity because I just don't know. It's so expensive. I don't know if it's going to work. But I have to have a little bit of faith and optimism because I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't.
So the other thing then, obviously, so you've got the traditional PR, flyering, posters. Do you think social media is becoming more and more important about trying to cut through and kind of get people in?
honestly, I am in two minds about it. I mean, apart from the obvious that I do not want to be sending more money to Mark Zuckerberg, um, I just don't know if it necessarily works that well based on because I'm always very much into like audience surveying. I used to do it sort of as part of my job, like insights. And I just like data. So I'm always interested to get like qualitative and quantitative responses from people to find out how they found out about the show, particularly if I've spent like £1,000 on a poster. Like I really want to know if anyone saw that poster. With social media, what I've found, at least in Australia, is very few people who we asked said, I saw the Instagram post, the paid post that is targeted. And it's not like I've just made up an audience and gone, oh, I mean, I was working with someone who works in this area and kind of, knows. So that you might get some quite good engagement, but does it actually convert to sales? Like that's the thing. And I guess I'm just more attracted to old school marketing or guerrilla marketing where it's not it doesn't have to go via the United States. It's like, I mean, I love the States, but in Edinburgh I'd love to just be in Edinburgh. But having said that, I'm also a real person who believes in networks, so I've been getting in contact with everyone that I met since the day I was born, basically, to say, do you know anyone in Edinburgh? Or do you know anyone who might know someone who knows someone? Because that's, of course, how it works. And I think really the main thing is word of mouth and people being your advocates. And luckily, we've got a lot of people in our community and amongst the audience who've already seen it, who really do want other people to see it. And they're the ones that have encouraged us to do this in the first place. They're like, the world needs to see this show. So we've taken that seriously.
On the online side, you do have a number of trailers on YouTube and stuff like that. So there's things like that. You look at to make use of those as well. And obviously you've got a song on Spotify as well.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of, I wouldn't necessarily have immediately thought of going down that route, the Spotify route. But one of the women who was in our cast originally, who has a studio and is just all over recording and is a brilliant musician, she said, "Hey, why don't we record this? It'd be good for the promo. This is for our very first season, which sold out before it opened. It was a short season, but it just, it gave us some good encouragement. And it's been useful to have that online, that one song. We've since actually recorded it in a quite different way, and it's performed completely differently from how it was originally done. But yeah, and then the video thing, well, I think every arts market that you go to, as a producer, they say you need video. And it was fun to make some sort of music video type short pieces. What we're finding, of course, is so many people don't watch a whole video. So really, you only need 6 seconds of a video, but it's got to be arresting, and then having those to piece together into a 15-second, fast kind of moving thing. I think that's been really useful, regardless of whether or not I'm promoting it on social media. It's like the venues want it, the journos want it to have as a link in their article and all that kind of thing. So yeah, a video is important, and I've enjoyed the process of doing it. It's made me think differently with this show, we could make a whole bunch of music videos because it's modular sketch. We could have a bunch of these songs up. We could have a lot of fun with that, and that could be another way of getting the work out there.
So are you looking to have the show filmed or professionally, or just little bits that you can kind of clip up?
Yeah, we've had it filmed we didn't have the most recent Auckland iteration filmed, but we've had it filmed quite a few times, normally for archival purposes. Though what happened at the end of last year is we had the theatre, we were going to do a matinee, and then we were like, no, we won't do the matinee, but we've got the theatre, so let's get our videographer in and just do some recording with him on stage moving around, a bit like the really fancy ones. And then we've got multiple angles and it's fun and we've got things to work with. So I don't think we'll be able to do that in Edinburgh just because, the venues are jam-packed. You've only got 5 minutes to kind of get on and off. But I will have it filmed for sure, and during the season, probably a little bit later in the season, and I will get some vox pops and things like that, because apart from anything else, it's just like, it's very easy to forget how you did something when it keeps evolving. And it's nice to go back and go, oh, that's right, we used to do that, and that, that was good timing, or that got a good laugh, or yeah. So I am an archivist. That's one of the reasons I've ended up, collecting stories and collecting things that I've then made into shows.
Yeah, and obviously Fringe is front and centre at your mind at the moment, but is there any plans for it post-Fringe, either down to London or wherever else in the beyond August?
There should be. I wish the answer to that was yes, I have a plan. I do have a loose plan, but I don't have anything in place in terms of the UK. So what I'm really hoping to do is get in front of different festival presenters and venues and agents and representatives who might be interested in kind of a longer term relationship. I would love to have, say, a UK cast touring the show, because apart from the existing show, there's always the potential for it to be renewed with other crazy, annoying things that happen in the workplace. So that's the plan there. And then we'll definitely go back to Australia next year in some capacity. And then depending on what happens, I'd love for this not to be like a once off. I would love for the show to come back to the UK next year. And I think I'll have the capacity to really explore, where in London would be a good fit for it, and other places that we might be able to tour it around either before or afterwards in the UK. But for now, we're just going to Edinburgh.
Thanks to Amy for coming on to the podcast. You can find out more details about HR the Musical in the show notes. If you enjoyed this, check out our other episodes where we talk to people in creative industries about how they promote and market their work.